Hey everybody, Whiskey and Crypto with Cam. It's been a while since I've had a few minutes to make a video for y'all. So here I am, another backyard video. It's a beautiful day where I am right now, high 80s, sunny. You can see there's not a cloud in the sky. Um, for those of you loyal followers, you'll see that this is a new backyard, and got my new Camp Chef smoker in the background there, or pellet grill. So this is kind of a new change for me, and I'm liking it a lot. So I'm going to start with getting a glass of whiskey because we got a lot to talk about. Right here, I've got some Resiliant 14. I actually did a review on this already, but you know what's weird is I can't find that on my uploads. So what I'm going to tell you a little bit real quick about this Resiliant 14 is that it's bottled by BC merchants, and that's really all they kind of keep a low profile. And the deal is, I think that they find good barrels from regular names. So the word on the street is that this may be a Dickel, George Dickel whiskey. But anyway, this particular bottle right here, the barrel was filled in 2005, bottled in 2019, and I just purchased it in 2020. And man, I love it. I drink it neat. I pour about 2 ounces because, well, it's mine and I'm generous to myself. What can I say? So this one has a great spicy nose. It's hot. It's a 111 proof, so it's pretty solid. But boy, I still recommend just drinking it neat. So, oh man, yeah, it's nice and warm. It's good stuff. So let's talk about crypto right now. So, Safecoin, probably my favorite project. Part of the team, although I've been stepping back from crypto quite a bit. But that's why I'm here, is kind of to refresh you guys and refresh myself on crypto. And so Safecoin, it's got a lot going for it. Just as a refresher, or for you new people that are just searching for my videos and you're seeing a new release, Safecoin is a KMD clone or fork, and but then it's different. So there was no pre-mine, and then ultimately Safe is able to notarize to other blockchains without a fee. And so instead of having to have a amount of money set aside to constantly pay those notarizations, and for those of you that aren't familiar, the notarizations, they prevent a 51% attack on a blockchain. So KMD does that, Safe does that. There's some other blockchains that do similar things, but basically what it's doing is it's taking its blockchain information at a certain block height and sending that to another blockchain such as Bitcoin, and then receiving back a transaction hash, and then that proves that up to that point nothing changes. So later you can't roll back beyond that checkpoint because of the notarization to the other blockchain. So somebody would have to attack both blockchains. And so Safecoin notarizes to multiple blockchains, and that allows for it to be even better, because instead of just having to attack 2 blockchains, you'd have to attack multiple blockchains, and you would have to roll them all back to the same point, and you would also have to know which blockchains are notarized at what level and stuff. It would be basically, I don't want to say impossible because we all know nothing is impossible, but it would be an incredibly difficult endeavor. So Safecoin and the blockchain for Safecoin is very secure. The additional aspects of it are asset chains, which, again, similar to Komodo. Komodo has an asset chain called Piratecoin, which we'll talk about because that's my other favorite project. So you can have an asset chain that is its own chain, and even if the parent chain ceases to exist, my understanding of the way that works, it would still, the asset chain would still continue. But it is also given the same protections against a 51% attack based upon the notarization. So Safecoin allows that. Safecoin has private and public transaction capability, whereas KMD has disabled private transactions and kind of farmed that off to the pirate chain asset chain. Piratecoin has 100% private transactions. Well, I shouldn't say that. When it's first mined, it's not private, but as soon as it gets sent, it must go to a private address. So that's another difference. So, but Safecoin really is growing with a lot of different things going on. So, great new QT wallet. I was able to test it on Mac, and it has different themes, which is kind of nice. Z transactions. It keeps track of your Z transactions by default, which is nice. And ultimately, there's also an iOS wallet, which I've tested and reviewed earlier. So I think Safecoin really is going in the right direction as far as it's really a broad-based project, and it really has a lot of different things to offer. Now, one of the things though that comes up with that is levels of development and which way do you focus and stuff, because it's not a tightly focused project. It's a really broad project. So it takes time, but the fundamentals are really sound. So I'm still a really big fan of it. And like I said, part of the team, but I really feel bad, actually. I've been a poor team member, to be honest, because I haven't been spending as much time helping with any kind of development or even input on priorities and stuff like that. But sorry, Jeff, if you watch this. But I hope you all out there will look at that as a project. So, getting away from projects, let's talk about why cryptocurrency is so important right now. For those of you in the U.S., we're all sitting here at home. One of the reasons I'm in my backyard, right, is because we're all sitting here at home and under some sort of at least partial quarantine orders. And there is a lot of U.S. currency being printed right now. I mean, a lot. So right now, our government is in negotiations to have potentially 3.4 trillion, that's with a T, that's 12 zeros, $3.4 trillion in stimulus money, for lack of a better term. And even if it's a trillion with one T, I mean, that is just a ton of money. Now, the way that gets made is it's printed. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? It's one coin is minted and then it's loaned to the Federal Reserve, and then they're allowed to, really, it's not even printed. There's a couple of clicks on a keyboard, and money is available now to loan to banks or to give to banks to be distributed through programs like the PPP and the Small Business Administration loans and the unemployment, underemployment insurance, and so that ultimately could lead to inflation. I was just reading an article today. I don't remember if it was Forbes or Wall Street Journal, but the title of the article was "Why the Dollar is in its most precarious position," something like that, in the most precarious position in years, and that's because of the potential for inflation. So the article went on to say that the euro is probably going to rise in relation to the dollar because the dollar is going to be weakened. And so, of course, that changes our imports, all these things going on. So what does this mean to you? Why am I blabbing about the dollar? Well, what that means to you as an American is that your dollar is not going to go as far, especially internationally. And that's always been one of my things about cryptocurrency, has been the ability to use one universal, and I'm not going to call it's not fiat money, although it is trustless and it's not backed, but it's not fiat because it's not given its value by a government. It is merely trust between people and supply and demand, which that gets into some great other mathematical aspects of things like Safecoin, Komodo, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these different cryptocurrencies. But what I'm getting at is, after a sip of whiskey, great Resiliant whiskey, maybe they'd sponsor me, is that cryptocurrency, because it's also worldwide, has the likelihood of being more stable, actually, at this point. Of course, supply and demand could change that. So I'm not saying that you should put your money into crypto, but I am saying that when you look at something like the potential inflation for the US dollar, it does make some sort of cryptocurrency a little bit more intriguing and enticing, at least to the likes of me. So, yeah, and Bitcoin's it's probably hit 12,000 a day. I wasn't paying close attention, but I'm pretty sure it was at 11,744 when I was looking earlier. I'm going to check right now, and I'll get back to you on that. Let's see, just for the record here, today is August 6th, 2020, and that's when I'm recording this. I'll upload it today. Currently, Bitcoin's at 11,886. I'm not one of those guys that thinks it's going to go off the hook, but I do see the limited supply and halvings keeping it as a kind of steady. Of course, we all know the transactions are too slow and too expensive, which is why we're on things like Safecoin, which has a really high transaction per second capability, by the way. So, wanted to talk to you guys too about Piratecoin. So, Piratecoin has some good leadership as far as motivated and good core strengths coming from KMD. So, and then the big thing is that it is private only transactions. So private only transactions, you've heard of Monero, you've heard of Dash, you may have heard of Zcash, and but the problem is that those are basically all privacy optional, and or they are privacy through obscurity. And if you've heard of security through obscurity, I may or may not use that. You won't know if you come into my house, but yeah, sometimes security through obscurity is fine. You know, you keep a gun inside of a hollowed out book on your bookshelf. You know what? It's probably not going to get stolen. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, privacy through obscurity is not a strength, because it just means it's 8 seconds of supercomputer time instead of 7 seconds of supercomputer time. And by the way, I stole that from Pirate's Discord, but somebody else responded to something I said about that. But you know, it's true. That's the problem with security or privacy through obscurity when you're talking about computers, because the more powerful a computer gets, the more capable it is of tracking and tracing transactions, and ultimately using network and contact tracing. Essentially, you can come up with a web that will potentially link a transaction to the owner, or follow that money to where it goes, or that cryptocurrency. So Pirate uses ZK snarks and is able to create transactions that aren't traceable or trackable if it's a private to private, you don't know the sender or the recipient or the amount, but yet the blockchain is able to, through the zero knowledge proofs, prove that the sender had the unspent transactions to send, and that the recipient received those transactions or that coin. So by using all private transactions, you're able to reduce the amount of tracing that would be able, because in theory, if you only had a small set of private transactions, but you know the total supply of a coin, and you know how much is in the public transactions, and you're watching public transactions, ultimately you may be able to deduce some private transactions. Ultimately, it's still a really long shot, and it would still be really difficult. So you do have to give Zcash some credit, and they don't have to be 100% private to still be secure, or still be private. But ultimately, I see an advantage to both, if that makes sense. So private, all the time transactions, really just make sure that you won't make a mistake, that you won't make yourself known by transferring from private to the same public wallet key address, or that you won't send it and inadvertently push send when you meant to send it from a private transaction. Essentially, although there's an argument about the transaction pool size, the private transaction pool size, although there's an argument for that, ultimately, I think mathematically for me, whatever, but I think what is important for the end user is that you're basically not going to mess it up, because it's always going to be a private-to-private transaction. You have a view key, which is capable of showing the transaction. It's like another cryptographic way to decrypt portions of that without giving away a private key, which would give you the ability to spend funds in a wallet. So yeah, there's your back in the saddle again. Resilient whiskey, 14-year-old. It's my first glass of the night, second glass out of this bottle. Bitcoin going up, the US dollar going down. Piratecoin, they're still planning on going to Pirate Week down in the Caribbean, and Safecoin just constantly developing one thing after another. You know, I've got a few other small projects that I'm involved in where I hold some coins, and ultimately, you know, I have hopes for all of cryptocurrency, and those small projects do have some potential for, usually for kind of a niche thing. Bitcoin Z, they had a pay on the spot point of sale that was kind of marketed towards restaurants, but so far that hasn't really turned out. Denarius, Carson Clock, gifted programmer, making lots of forward progress on Denarius, but I don't know what the end game is on that project. It's limited supplies, so that's important in the big picture. EtherGem, if you guys are want to look up these other projects, EtherGem, again, it's a clone of Ethereum with a lot of other improvements, essentially, and also without a pre-mine that gave away millions of dollars. So, you know, I mean, I still own some Cardano and some Stellar, but not enough to change my life when they go big, if they go big. But Safecoin and Pirate, baby, that's where it's at. So that's it. That's my catch up for you guys with me. I will try to post more videos more often. Now that I have a beautiful backyard to sit in and show off my pellet grill, hopefully I'll have more time also to sit back here and give you updates on these other projects as I get to them. So post your comments below if you have things you want me to talk about. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty simple like this for a while, with just updates on what whiskey I might be drinking and what cryptocurrency I'm messing with. So subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.